Okay, next up is Godzilla versus Kong. And I split this one into kind of two sections. So you've got wrong Kong and right Kong. Kind of self-explanatory. It's what goes right and what goes wrong. Funny that. So I'll start with the right Kong. What went right? For me, it was the visuals and the CGI. They were absolutely spectacular. The scene where Elen, I think her name is, can't remember, played by Rebecca Hall, and her team enter Hollow Earth. It was so mind-bending, and it's really intriguing as well. It, in true sort of journey to the center of the earth style, this film jumps from its shitty military bases and ocean liners, which was quite dull and drab, to a dazzling new world which plays with gravity and springs incredible dangers on its visitors at the same time. The atmosphere completely changes in both senses, really, and this is where Godzilla versus Kong really picks up. The whole upside down landscape, down is up, up's down. It was just mind boggling. And the sort of scary creatures that add to the hellish heaven at the same time. It's all displayed through some smoky cinematography as well. It's brilliant. I cannot fault the visuals at all. And when when they reach Kong's ancestral throne room, the sort of action that I've been craving finally kicked off. It's honestly, it's every archaeologist's wet dream, and it was my gripping point, and was literally the only part of the movie that I found entertaining, sadly. Because wrong Kong. Now, Godzilla versus Kong, it was over before I even knew it had begun. I genuinely couldn't believe how fast everything had just whizzed past, and not in a good way either, because some films, I quite enjoy the fact that the story kicks off so damn quickly. With it 5 to 10 minutes in, you've got the characters, you've got the plot, and it all just gets going, hurtles towards the finale. It's, these things, they happen in a way that prevents boredom and keeps you gripped as well. Brilliant. However, this was different. Godzilla versus Kong was vastly different. It literally began, a few things happened, and then the credits rolled. As though the producers stood there and went, fuck it. It was only supposed to be a bite-sized thing anyway. Fuck it. Just everything was just over before it started. And it was quite disappointing. I suppose the emotional scenes between Rebecca Hall's character's daughter and Kong came off as just plain pretentious as well. There was honestly nothing even remotely warming about watching a lonesome little girl grow close to a giant beast. A few scenes actually had the military step right back and they let her take over, which, let's face it, would not happen. A massive military group would not let like a 4 or 5-year-old girl go off with a giant gorilla. I know that's a real obvious statement. Yes, it's so obvious it wouldn't happen, but it just wouldn't happen. So it was just ridiculous, and it just it didn't. The whole savior-daughter element didn't bring me any sort of closer to the characters' relationship either. It was just plain irritating, I'm afraid, guys. So yeah, it was that kind of sweet little smiles of understanding as bullets rain down behind them in the background. Yeah, it's you get the idea. And you'd also, at the same time, you'd think Millie Bobby Brown's character, Madison, would be the star of Godzilla versus Kong, but she, in fact, gets less screen time than a cameo in a fucking soap opera. She's in, sort of fiddles around, she's out. Yeah. The entire thing, the little girl lead who seems to govern higher than the military, a pivotal character from the previous movie who suddenly becomes a backing artist, and a plot that reaches its anticlimax of an end so swiftly, it's quite surprising. Yeah, it's an absolute downer, really. If you do spend money on watching this, you need talking to, frankly. And the worst thing is, about the movie overall. So I know I mentioned the visuals towards the end were spectacular. They were. But the worst thing about the movie was the action all takes place on this sort of bland, uninteresting set, which is nowhere near as visually satisfying as it should be. I mean, I'm assuming the director sort of got a discount deal on some remote jungle land somewhere, somewhere off coast, and just stayed there with his camera crew. Yeah. The set used for the Apex headquarters, which is where Madison and her friends end up as they try and, bugger off and try and fix things or do whatever they tried to do. It's it was brief. I wonder why they even bothered going, although it does create a nice sci-fi vibe. It's quite futuristic. So that's another, I suppose, CGI visual type thing to look forward to. There's just apart from one or two CGI spectacles, there's just no substance to the overall film. There's no decent plot worthy of taking place on such a swish sort of set in various places. I mean, have you ever been sat watching a film with that feeling of emptiness at just how much effort hasn't been put into it? The characters are up on screen, sort of barking their lines, surrounded by a booming soundtrack, running about, very loud, but you're just not that into it. Yeah, I mean, that's it basically. That's Godzilla versus Kong. And the quiet, more emotional scenes between characters, it just gives you a second to actually sit there and think, how much are these people being paid to actually stand there and do that, run off this shite. So, welcome to Godzilla versus Kong. The finale is what you want to stick around for. Most of it is just very dull and very pretentious. It's fast-paced in places, and you can feel the effort put into it, but it just hasn't paid off. Yeah, unfortunately, or fortunately, in this case, the only scene worth sticking around for is the fight between the two beasts themselves. Because, let's face it, Godzilla versus Kong, you want to know how it pans out. So, that's it from me. I physically haven't got the energy or enthusiasm to waste continuing talking about this, and I've hit 7 minutes, 42 seconds. So, that's it from me. Endure